Hello and welcome to another episode of District of Sports. I'm George Gerbo. A reminder that you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search District of Sports in your favorite podcast app, and to find all of our sports coverage online at washingtontimes.com/sports. Tennis isn't just a sport. It can also be a vehicle to change lives and leave a lasting impact. Just ask Stacey Allaster. The chief executive of professional tennis at the USTA and U.S. Open tournament director is a lifer in the sport. Even though she didn't play it at the highest level, she's led it from those same heights. Among her numerous accolades across a 38-year career, as the former chairman and CEO of the Women's Tennis Association, she led the push for equal prize money at Wimbledon, Roland Garros, and across the sport, something which will also happen at Washington's D.C. Open by 2027. As she ends her tenure at Flushing Meadows, Allaster is this year's recipient of the USTA Mid-Atlantic Foundation's Tennis Creates Impact Award. She'll receive the honor from the Arlington-based foundation at its annual Tennis Creates Gala on December 6th at the Salamander Hotel in the district. The Tennis Creates Gala is the USTA Mid-Atlantic Foundation's signature fundraising event, with all proceeds benefiting the foundation's mission to make tennis accessible to everyone in the region, regardless of background or location. And joining me on this edition of District of Sports is the Chief Executive of Professional Tennis with the USTA, the outgoing Tournament Director of the U.S. Open, and this year's recipient of the USTA Mid-Atlantic Foundation's Tennis Creates Impact Award, Stacey Allaster. Stacey, thanks so much for joining me.
Good afternoon, George. It's lovely to be with you, and I see you're a big tennis fan. Who's your favorite?
I am a big tennis fan. Novak is my guy on the men's side.
The GOAT. Yeah.
Yes.
And the women's?
On the women's, Venus and Serena. I grew up in that era, and then Andre Agassi too. I kind of grew up loving Andre, and I like the flash. I like, we everybody in the game is great, and there's so many different personalities, as you know. But I kind of like when the players show a little bit more of themselves, and I think those four have really done it over the years.
They have, and you couldn't have looked at 3 to 4 different athletes with different personalities, but yeah, they're all pretty darn special.
Yeah, that's perfect kind of timing or segue to start. First, congratulations on the honor. We're at such a unique moment in the sport here where, as someone who's played it all my life and watched it all my life, we've had the ebbs and the flows. We had the Agassi and the Sampras days of the 90s, Venus and Serena, and what they did for not only American women and women of color in this country, but American tennis in general. And now we come through the big three era, Novak and Rafa and Roger. And now here we are with Carlos and Jannik in the men's side. It's such a unique time for you to have led the U.S. Open as you have for the last 5 years. And now as you transition out of that, just why did this feel like the right time now for you to kind of pass the torch on, specifically in regards to the U.S. Open?
Sure. Well, I've actually been doing this for 38 years. So I've been very, very fortunate to have taken a passion with very little tennis talent on the court and translated it into a successful career. So I did 18 years at Tennis Canada and ran that organization and the Canadian Open. I was chairman and CEO of the WTA Tour. I did that for 10 years. And I've been with the USTA as the chief executive of Pro Tennis for 10 years. So that's 38 years. And, I just sort of got to this moment, and it's an opportunity that I have to say, let's hang up the full-time racket and set a course on a new chapter. I'm not retiring, but I'm really just pivoting to a life centered around fun, freedom, and impact. And I intend to build a different legacy, but it'll still be focused on loving tennis and making sure that little boys and little girls and men and women, everyone, regardless of their zip code, has a chance to play tennis, which is what USTA Mid-Atlantic Foundation is all about and what this gala is about. And then, just have some freedom with my time. It's been awesome the last 10 years. Overseeing the U.S. Open for the USTA. But you also have to know, George, not only when it's time for you, but when it's time for your team and to make room for that team. And my team is awesome. And they're all more than capable, and they're all going to get elevated. I'm super excited. I guess it was 2 weeks ago that Eric Buderak, former doubles player, and I've been mentoring him and working alongside of him, that I'm passing the baton to him. So I'm really excited for Eric.
Yeah, it's such a unique time and an exciting time in the world of tennis. You talked about legacy, one of your signature legacies, advocating and securing equal pay for the women's tour to be equal to the men's tour. We've, of course, had that at the USTA and at the Open since the 70s, more than 50 years now.
That's
and finally, in the last decade plus, we've seen the Roland Garros has got there, Wimbledon has got there. Our tournament here in DC, the Mubadala City DC Open, will get there with the women in the next couple of years, as tournament director Mark Ein has said. How kind of satisfying and rewarding is it to see that? It's such a push that was American in a sport that is a global sport, truly is a global sport, something that was American-led years ago, Billie Jean King and the Nine that helped start advocating that, and now finally seeing it gain more of a fuller acceptance in this world of tennis.
Look, very proud of our sport, very proud of athlete-led with Billie. And Billie passed the baton to Chrissy and Martina, and then it was Steffi and Monica, and then, of course, Venus and Serena, and now Coco today and Jess Pegula leading. And I think about 1973, and the person that, the tournament director, I don't think they believed that Billie would come along and have the Delta. And then the USTA did not waver for 53 years. And we look at where women's sport is today. There's great momentum, and that is fantastic. But those sports are still so far away in compensating the athletes that hopefully the US Open and tennis continues to be that lighthouse, that the business of women's sport, and the women deserve more compensation. And I just, for the sport that I love, for tennis to be that leader, I feel very, very lucky that it's our sport.
And in terms of the tournament, the US Open, just, great strides, at least from where I sit, in terms of the visibility and how it's not necessary. Generally, it's great when the Americans do well, right? Of course, you see a little more of a pop when a guy like DC's Francis Tiafoe or Ben Shelton.
Big foe. I love our big foe.
He's awesome. And just when you see those guys do well, and not only that, but to do well on the biggest stage in New York, but just overall, the tournament has grown, I feel like, in visibility. The mixed doubles event this year that was introduced was another kind of unique angle. How can we revive or kind of juice up this event? And it seems like it was well received. And kind of along those lines, what do you feel is your thing you're most proud of in terms of the U.S. Open and your stewardship of the tournament?
If you allow me three things that I'm really, really proud of.
Yeah, absolutely.
First, it would be over my 10 years, the tournament the revenues have doubled, and we've gone from 750,000 to 1.15 million. And that really has been through the growth of Fan Week. And so very, very, very proud of that. In 2020, we showed the tennis world, on how our sport could come back to competitive play and do it in a safe manner that didn't take away any resource from the local community. And we put New York City back on the map, and it became a blueprint for our sport, and put thousands of people back to work. And then I talked about it earlier. I'm just really proud of my team. And, as a leader, our jobs really are to hire the smartest people, inspire them, empower them, and to be able to pass the baton to them, knowing that they'll take the tournament to the next level of growth. I'm really proud of them.
If I can ask you one tennis logistics type of related question, you've got a unique perch as both being the CEO of the WTA and then also leading the US Open. Such a lot of conversation, especially from the top players in the sport, about how long the season is, how many events they're playing in, the events that they need, between the 1,000 and the 500 and the 250s, and which events that they have to show up at.
Yep.
Is there a happy medium somewhere and it seems like the tournaments, are starting to kind of get that. I know Cincinnati this year expanded their tournament, and then the final ends midweek, and now they've already said that the final is going to go back to a Sunday just because of how weird logistically that was for fans and players. Do you feel like there's a happy medium that both the tournaments can do well and succeed and get the big players they want, and the players can also feel that they're not going to be overstressed and overworked at having to fly around the globe to all of these events?
That is the multiple billion-dollar question, George.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the athletes need a real bona fide 8-week off season, and we don't have that yet. So, it's really just been two years. It's the first year for the Cincinnati Open, where it went from an 8-day men's event to 12-day and 7-day women's event to 12 days. So they had a Monday final this year. So now that didn't work. So both tours have agreed to a Sunday final. I think the sweet spot are 9-10 days, 2 weekends. You'd have your front weekend and your last weekend, and then piecing it together. What we do know outside of the U.S. Open in this country, the most successful events in the United States are the BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells, and Raymond Moore's team have done a phenomenal job. 550,000 people, and it's phenomenal. And in Miami, the Miami Open, they too have been very successful. And those events didn't start as 12 days. I remember when I was a CEO, each year they'd come and say, well, no, now we're 9. Now we'd like to be 10. And players didn't like it. And when you think about it, the majority of the athletes are European and international. And they would lose early in Indian Wells, and then they had to wait a week, 10 days, and then it's Miami. So I do think athletes adapt, but fundamentally, this level of play, we just talked about Carlos and Jannik, they've just taken it to the next level. And on our women's side, Sabalenka, Andreeva, Coco, Jet, hitting the ball, like the physical, it's a whole new ball game, no pun intended.
Yeah.
So they definitely need, they need their peaking. That's why the Canadian Open, the Cincy Open, US Open is a good sport periodization schedule. Then they need a break. But right now, it's a struggle for the post each Grand Slam for those breaks to come.
Yeah, it's we'll see how it shakes out in the coming years. There's I love that there's so much tennis on television anytime I want to watch it, but then at the same time, it's like, they're going all over the place. It can be tiring.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. We'll wrap up. I want to focus on the Tennis Creates Gala, where you'll get the Tennis Creates Impact Award. TennisCreatesGala.com for tickets and more information. We've got Sam Querrey, John Isner, American men's tennis stars hosting the event. We've seen it firsthand. You mentioned Frances Tiafoe, of course, product of the JTCC Junior Tennis Champion Center in College Park, the Washington Tennis and Education Foundation, which is the main benefactor of our tournament in DC, the DC Open. It really does. It's not just speak that, can tennis change lives? It's done so for players like Haley Baptiste and so many.
Rob Montgomery.
Big
Foe.
Yeah, just so many.
Stacey Allaster. I don't know if you know my story. 99% of all of us are never going to be, Big Foe, Haley Baptiste, Robert Montgomery, and play on the Pro Tour. But we think about tennis changes people's lives. I say that all the time, and I know that the USTA Mid-Atlantic Foundation is laser focused on making tennis available for all, irrespective of the zip code. And it's very welcoming, and it's a really affordable. If you go on to USTA Mid-Atlantic Foundation.org, there are lots of programs. I went on myself. They're for free. And I was just a little kid who was given a racket, a scholarship, just like USTA Mid-Atlantic Foundation will do from the monies raised at this year's Tennis Creates Gala. And I got 6 weeks of lessons and a membership at the Welland Tennis Club. And then you think about this for a second, talking about changing kids' lives. That little kid from a little country with limited tennis talent went on to run the Canadian Open, became the chairman and CEO of the WTA Tour Worldwide, became the first woman in 140 years to run the U.S. Open. And I never played pro tennis. And so when you think about the transformation and the opportunity that tennis has to make a difference for kids' lives and then for adults, just the social and emotional, we're the healthiest sport in the world. It is the sport that everyone in the Mid-Atlantic area should be playing.
Yeah, and it's all proceeds, as you mentioned, from the gala benefit the USTA Mid-Atlantic Foundation, the mission to make tennis accessible to everyone in our region. It is, and it not only, as you kind of hit on, not only being something, maybe you have the talent to be a Francis Tiafoe type of player, but if not, you've got a sport for life. And, there's thousands of courts across our region, and just simple to sign up a reserve or just head to one. And all you need is a can of balls and a racket. For me, it's a lot of times it's the wall. I hit against the wall a lot if I don't have anybody to play with, but
you win a lot on the wall, don't you?
You win a lot on the wall. Yeah. But it's something that it's a sport you can carry throughout your entire life and continue to improve and gain and be proficient at, which is awesome.
No question. It is awesome. We had a woman, she's 100 years old. She plays tennis 3-4 times a week. Everyone loves Dorothy. Just remarkable. Billy's down in South Africa right now, and there was her Instagram feed. She's out there hitting balls. So it is a sport of a lifetime. The data does tell us you can live 9.7 years longer. And I think, for those who are listening, if you have a little boy or a little girl, it definitely provides the lessons in life that don't come in the traditional academic setting. And for little girls to play sport, hopefully you want to play tennis, but to play sport, it is really so important for their emotional well-being and their self-confidence. And the data is clear. 90% of female business leaders who played sport, 90% of female leaders played sport, 50% of female CEOs played competitive sport. And so it really does, when we think about where we really are in the health and the wellness industry, tennis is our product. Getting Americans out there and playing, and I know you love it, it's just really good for the body, mind, and soul.
Absolutely. Tenniscreatesgala.com. Tickets and more information. Stacey, congratulations. Thank you for the time, and best of luck in your next chapter.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The Tennis Creates Gala is Saturday, December 6th at Washington's Salamander Hotel. The evening, hosted by former American tennis stars Sam Querrey and John Isner, will feature live and silent auctions, food and drink, entertainment, and more. For tickets and more information, visit tenniscreatesgala.com. And a reminder that you can find all of our sports coverage at the Washington Times at washingtontimes.com/sports and at Wash Times on social media, and for myself at Gerbo3 on social media. I'm George Gerbo. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.